joined us today. I'm Senela, you're with Leaders Connect. And on today's episode, we are going to focus in and zone in on a particular topic, which is taking initiative. So to kick off today's episode, I want to read out a quote by Bo Bennett, and that is this: without initiative, leaders are simply workers in leadership positions. I'm going to say that quote again. Without initiative, leaders are simply workers in leadership positions. I want you to think about that. And to kick it off, I want to invite Mireille to also share her thoughts about that quote and some of your ideas around taking initiative as it relates to your journey, Mireille, because I invited you specifically to speak to this point because you and I are both female founders and we go to work globally. So Mireille, I'm going to pass the talking stick over to you. Would you like to share your views on taking initiative and what that journey has looked like in your rise and climb to leadership?
Yeah, it's thank you for having me for this episode of your show. And it's, leadership is something that we've been, talking about, especially for women, we've been talking about for a long time. But I think, sometimes we don't actually know what it is all about. And I like the quote that you just shared about, taking initiative. Otherwise, we're just, leaders, followers in a way, because it's not really about leadership. And I really resonate with that, because in, a lot of things that I've done in my life, I've been faced with a lot of challenges. And, when challenges come, you can't just sit down and wait for people or wait for another leader to help you to take action or to help you to get out of this, this problem. So you have to be solution, oriented, solution minded, and then move, take action, because it's one thing to, have the solution in your mind, but it's another thing to really implement it. And that's where, taking initiative is very important. Is that, people have a lot of ideas, people have a lot of, they talk a lot, they write a lot, they do a lot of things, but until you implement something, until you take action, nothing happens. And there's, you're just going to stay at the same level. And, I've had to do that through my career. I started my career in corporate, so I'm an engineer by background. And so started in corporate, and at some point reached, a level where I was stuck. So I had two options. One was, to complain and stay at the same level, or try to see what I could do to get moving. And I choose to find a solution and see what different other way I could take to be able to move forward. And that's what I did. And as a founder, I think you probably relate to it, is that you have to be a step ahead all the time. You don't have time, if you spend time whining, if you spend time, looking at what, the obstacle, what people say, then you will never, you'll be so fearful, you will never do anything. And I think that's really what it's all about here.
I love that. I love what you said about, it's one thing to have this challenge, and then to draw that to solution level, one needs to take initiative. And thank you for sharing your journey as well. And, it's so interesting because we are both founders, and we're both female founders, and we are so multifaceted. We are into so many different things. And, in your thoughts, what do you think are some of those challenges about taking initiative? Because see, Mira, when we talk about taking initiative, because you and I are both, we have already arrived in leadership. I think, is there a personality component to it? I remember when I first started my journey in leadership, I'm speaking to audience members from around the world who are still in their journey in becoming a leader, and they're still not fully identified. They haven't fully identified their leadership personality. What are their strong leadership traits? And these are kind of the things that we empirically encounter, when we work with other, aspiring, emerging leaders, men and women in different continents. So to those people who still have not really fully flourished in their leadership persona, why do you think it feels kind of like a big challenge and a hurdle to come into that idea? Yes, I need to take initiative and switch my mindset from being told what is the right thing to do versus now stepping forward, taking honest leadership and saying, no, this is the right thing and I have conviction. I need to believe in myself a little more. I need to take that initiative. Mira, what are your thoughts around that? Why do you think people are reluctant sometimes, particularly emerging leaders, in taking initiative?
I mean, one thing that I see, and that's a strong one, is really the environment where we are. So it can be the culture, it can be, the way we've been raised. So those things are the starting point. And it takes a lot of time sometimes to just realize, that we've basically been domesticated and we're just living somebody's else life. And I think that's where it started. I've lived in I grew up in an African context where there's a lot of rules for women, or what you're supposed to do. So you have to get step back and sometimes just look at internally what you really want for your life, and how this environment is conducive or not, and take the step if that's really what you want, and if you really want to have your get to where you want to be, get the step to challenge yourself. And sometimes you can't do it on your own. So I think that's first, get the awareness, the self-awareness where you are and what you want, and then get the awareness of the environment around you and see how it match. And then if it doesn't match, you need to change this environment. You need to get the right support, and that's where connecting with people that actually have accomplished what you want to do is important. At least seeing those people, you don't have to have them around you. You can see them on TV, you can read about them, and it starts to create this conducive leadership spirit that you really want to have. And I think that's key, is you know yourself, believe in yourself, because that's the first thing, and understand where you are in the process, understand how your environment and is affecting you, and try put yourself in like I said, solution minded way, spirit and mindset, and start to find the resources. It can be having a mentor, it can be that you have to move somewhere else, and I've done that myself. It can be that you have to change industry. Maybe you're stuck where you are, and it's not you can't get anywhere. And I think a lot of us have started our own initiative. I started this journey as a founder and entrepreneur because of that, because we wanted to have this freedom of expressing ourselves and moving forward and creating the impact that we really wanted to have. So that's those are the key thing. And it's hard, especially when you are in a certain environment. The people that are actually blocking you are actually the people around you, the people actually who love you, sometimes your family, sometimes your friends, because they see you in a box. And it's important for you to show them that you're not in a box, you're not limited, you're not perfect. Yes, you're gonna make you're gonna make mistakes, but you're gonna stand up because you have a purpose, you have some goals that you want to achieve. And that's an important step, to say, okay, I'm gonna step up. Yes, I might get burned, and we know what it's all about with entrepreneurship, but we have this determination to really be ourselves, to really be the leader that we are looking for, and go forward.
I love that. And Absolutely. I mean, some practical steps there, Mireille, you shared, because end of the day, if I look back in hindsight, even at my own leadership journey, I love that you mentioned it's not about being perfect. Yes, we're going to make mistakes, but at the end of the day, it's about also stepping up. And I think from what you shared, I'm also thinking, some of the key associations or attributes as a person, as a personality for an emerging leader, especially to really inculcate that value and that ability and attitude to taking initiative of one's own life, taking initiative for things at work. I think based on what you shared, I'm thinking that attitude is also associated with resilience as a human being, as a person. So you have the human being, you have the person, you have the personality. And then I also loved how you said, have a plan, have a vision, go after that. So I just want to, that brings me back to my genesis as well. I mean, I'm not going to go right into the genesis of everything, but just looking back, if you look at me, Mireille, somewhat of my story. I mean, we've spoken on stages before together. Looking at my own journey, I went from being someone raised to conform and comply to reinventing my life, setting myself high goals and going after them in a way that brings me fulfillment and impact, and not only for myself, but to so many others around me. And I know you can relate to this because you're a champion for women in STEM as well. So you and I do a lot of synergy on several different fronts. I went from working for a Fortune 500 company involved in building product and corporate brands to subsequently doing a big transition into full-time entrepreneurship on a global scale and also impactful philanthropy. So I love that today's episode is focusing on taking initiative because, believe it or not, like if you look at Mireille and I, you think, oh, they're confident takers, they've got it all. They know, it was, something that they were born with, or some attributes. They've always been this confident and always had this precision and clarity. But that's just, couldn't be more further than the truth. Because I remember, Mireille, I'll speak for myself. There have been several moments in my life before every significant pivot. There was a moment of complete brokenness where I felt so out of myself and I kept questioning myself. Who am I as a person? What is my value contribution as a woman? And culturally, I kind of felt like I just had to conform, comply. And, I didn't see myself as somebody who can make a significant contribution because I didn't even have clarity. I didn't even have an understanding about who I was. So I felt fearful. And then it took me a lot of unpacking, a lot of relearning, a lot of purpose-driven reinventing, a lot of guts and courage to really face fear in the eye and say, you know what, I want something better for myself so that I can feel fulfilled and I can contribute to a bigger legacy. So coming back to some of the pros and cons in this whole idea and narrative of taking initiative, Mireille. Some of the pros that I can think of, and then I want to open that, pass the talking stick back to you. I'm thinking some of the pros of taking initiative would be, it's satisfying. It gives you a sense of ownership. Yes. It also gives you a sense of direction, because taking initiative means you are setting direction. You are the creator of that journey and momentum. It's also going after what we really desire. So it's really going to build your courage for things. Unless you try, you will never know. All right. Also, I see taking initiative as giving us that booster because of the learning curve. Every time I take initiative, it's a new experience. So it's an experience that I'm meant to go through as an experiment to challenge myself. So these are some of the pros I see, and some of the cons I can imagine for myself that have been, and also for some others who are not naturally people who take initiative, is this: the fear factor. The cons are addressing the fear factor. Another would be overcoming self-sabotage and self-doubt. And I think sometimes it could be a parallel journey in leadership where even when you feel like, yes, I'm in leadership now, everything's going to be great and flowery and rosy, it's not a garden of roses.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it really isn't. It's just the
Mm-hmm.
beginning of bigger problems and challenges. And then also imposter syndrome. And also if you're not a natural risk taker, the idea of taking initiative is going to feel like a conundrum. And then finally, I want to leave with this other con is analysis paralysis. All right. A lot of us can relate to that. We analyze, we're so critical, we want it to be perfect, but the idea of taking initiative could mean that there is a bigger battle on the other end that I'm not even aware of. So I'm analyzing. So these are natural cons that a lot of people might feel. And because of that, it feels like a conundrum to take an initiative. So Mireille, I'm going to pass the talking stick back to you because we know that these cons are things that we can definitely overcome. And you and I do face this on a daily basis, and we are overcoming these, and we have overcome these. So passing the talking stick back to you. What are your thoughts around it?
So, I mean, I agree with everything that you've shared, and for me, it's it's all about freedom. Freedom of taking initiative gives you the freedom of you feel so good that you are in control, you have the power, and you can lead. You can lead people, you can lead an effort, you can lead a project, and it really gives you this freedom that I think everybody is we all want, and that's really the first thing that I see. And it's also because it's a dynamic thing. When you take initiative, it pushes you to it's energy. You bring energy into the process. So this energy is very important, very, very important to as a leader, because then you can transmit it to other people, so that there's a translation effect, that this energy that you bring, because you take initiative, people around you feel empowered, so they follow as well. So I think that's a key thing. And even for yourself, it helps you, because we all have this fear factor that you talked about. So just putting just doing it release this pressure. And it's important to understand that like I said, we're not perfect. So even taking action, we can get it wrong, but we have to forgive ourselves. We are here, we learn in the process, so we might get it wrong, but we learn and we optimize in the process. We keep taking action, and I think as long as we keep being, taking those initiatives and pushing forward, there's nothing that can happen to us, and we grow in the process. And I think that's the key thing that I always want to share with people, is that when you're going to take this initiative, you're going to grow so much, even if you get it wrong. And it gives you this sense of invincibility, because then you take the next risk, and then you keep going, and you really feel that you are empowered. And for a lot of women, it's really about taking initiative in a lot of senses, because what I've seen so far, working especially in a male-dominated environment, is that women are actually, most of the time, even when they're really smart, they're just waiting for direction from somebody else, have a man or have a woman colleague that is higher ranked in the hierarchy, and they sit there to wait to get noticed. And that's what some of them get frustrated, because they might get noticed, but people don't go to them, because they really go to the people who are asking, the people who are taking initiative, the people who are showing this leadership. And that's important for women, especially I'm talking here about my experience working in the oil and gas industry, and in a very male dominated, is that we have to raise our hands, and we have to take action, because that's the only way we're going to get to those positions where we're not we can access, show that we are the leaders that we are ready, and we're going to take those positions, and we whatever the challenges, we are ready for that. And I myself was really a victim of all of it. When I came into the oil and gas industry, it was, I started to find, first thing for me was to find all the excuses not to take action. Was okay, I'm a woman, I'm a Black woman, I'm, all kind of things, I have not studied in those big university in the US. So you find all those, those excuses already. And you basically, freezing. You live in fear all the time until I change, and I shifted my mindset, saying, I'm here, so there's a reason why I'm here. I have the qualification. I have, I have the mindset. I can do something, and I started to take initiative. Raise my hand to be into projects, talk to people to mentor me. So that's how, things started to evolve, and I started to be very confident and have big goals for myself, for the industry, for everything, until, to the point where I am now. So taking initiative is really good. But, on the other side is, what I see, as a drawback is sometimes people are more worried about what, other people think about them, and it frees them, and they don't want to take any initiative, because especially if it's risky, because we want to have it right, so that they can get, the approval of those people that they worry about. But, at the end of the day, I'm just going to quote, Les Brown here: what people think about you is none of your business. It's, they see it in their lens, in the lens of their own limitation. So you shouldn't really worry about it. You should worry about yourself. You should worry about the progression that you're making. You should worry about, where you really want to be, and worry about the impact that you create, in anything that you do. And, you've talked about this in syndrome, the imposter syndrome, which I think, you felt as well. And I felt it at some point, because things were going really well. And I was like, who I am, a woman, a Black woman doing all of this, and I started to freeze, and I just realized, why not? Why not? I'm not an imposter. I'm creating value, and not only for myself, but also for other people. I mean, I have, it's a legacy that I'm building. So I shouldn't be ashamed. I shouldn't be, afraid, to keep going, and to keep, being who I am, and creating the impact that I want to create. So that's all of this. There's the fear as well, like you said, we're not perfect, people can see us, as, confident leaders, but sometimes we have fear as well. So we have the fear, but we do it anyway. So just like, this book, you fear, but you do it anyway, because you know that that's the right thing to do for you. And that's the right step to take, if you really want to fulfill your dreams. And that's really the way I see it.
Absolutely. And, for everybody watching in today, really, this is just, Mireille and I are coming forward as leaders who have, we feel vulnerable looking at us. It's not that we don't have vulnerability. It's not that we don't have challenges. The reality is that it's, I keep advocating for this in leadership. I tell people, you want to be an inspiring leader. You want to have, that established credibility. What you need to remember is it's not so much focusing about, oh, I've got off course. This is my destination, but I'm so far from it. Oh no, what do I do? What are others going to think of me? It's about your resilience and your capability to get back on it, to get back on course, because you know the destination. If you have conviction, commitment, those two are as important to your success as having clarity. Clarity without conviction and commitment. I've spoken to leaders, Mireille, they have the clarity, but they don't have that self-discipline to push that through, to see it to completion. It's one thing to say in leadership, or as emerging leader, I want to begin things with the end in mind. I want to take initiative, but to see it through. And I'm pretty sure, Mireille, I mean, those are kind of the values that also govern, in the way you operate as well. It's really our modus operandi. is taking that initiative. And I love what you said about, raising your hand. As women, I remember, we're in different boards, and when, sometimes I remember my early journey on in leadership, I was like, I'm waiting for somebody else to give me the opportunity to speak, to comment, because I'm like, I'm waiting for it. No, don't wait for others to give visibility and create visibility for you. Raise your hand. You got to raise your hand and do it anyway. I love that you said, do it anyway. Tick. There we go. So with that, Mireille, we are wrapping up today, and I just wanted to ask any last words from you.
So, the last word for me is, really for those, listening, is, just take that step, don't froze. In a way, whatever it's going to happen, if it's good, fine, you're on the way to your dreams. But if it's bad, you learn in the process and you optimize. And I've been working, the last few years on a process, a leadership process that I've been sharing with a lot of people, and I think that's the thing that I've actually applied to myself without knowing. And so I realized that, so I put it into steps. It's that, it all starts, you have this decision, you have to decide where you want to be. And, when you've decided, the course and where you want to be, you have to take action. And this taking action is a key one, because until you can be a visionary, you can, have everything map out in your mind, until you take action and we see some result, then, nothing is happening. So when you take this action, there's two outcomes. It can be good, and you're okay. Or it can be dramatic, but, don't stay there. You can cry if it's dramatic, but stand up, look at, other angles, bring people into the process who actually been there. Or, if it's about, the knowledge, if you're short in your knowledge, get, this knowledge, find a way to get the right knowledge, volunteer somewhere where you can get the knowledge, or even go back to school for a short course, anything, but don't stay where you are. Keep moving. It's all about, taking those action, those little, even if it's a little step, it's better than you just staying where you are. And that's the important thing. Take action wherever you can, and it's going to lead you to create a legacy, and until, by the time you realize you're creating a legacy, you are a leader, you are a global leader, and you creating positive impact in people's life, and you become a role model in the process. So that's really where I want to leave it here.
Yes, absolutely. And with that, I want to conclude with this quote I came across by an English writer, Holbrook Jackson. Genius is initiative on fire. I want you to think about that. Oh, I love it as well. So as I always say, friends, until next time, remember to lead from within with clarity, strategy, and take action. And with that, Mireille and Senela signing out. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.